Let's say that you need to ask something of your board, maybe a favor, maybe their validation of something, but there's just one problem. This is not like any other situation when you have to deal with the board. In this specific case, the board blames you for something, and maybe for a good reason, maybe not. So the key here is, how can you negotiate with the board or persuade the board when they're trying to accuse you of something and possibly punish you? That's what we're going to take a look at in this video. So usually, when there's a problem hanging in the air and you want to propose something new to a board, the first thing that you gotta do is you gotta separate the two. First, you want to close the topic of your punishment or your accusation or whatever it is. Maybe you're to blame for something, and if you are, maybe you can propose a punishment, or maybe you can take the punishment that they're trying to inflict on you. But the key is, you gotta close the chapter before you suggest the second thing, because otherwise they're going to be blamed. So you want to close the chapter first on this thing that's pending, and then you want to suggest the second thing. In specific, there are three major tips that you can leverage in this type of situation. So the first tip is you want to preempt the problem. That is, if you think you're going to be punished for something, whether it's for good reason or not, you want to get ahead of the thing and propose a punishment yourself. But what you want to do here is you want to propose a smaller punishment than the board would inflict on you anyway. For example, let's say that you lost a key piece of talent, and let's say that the board is considering sanctioning you with 25% of your salary, for example. So what you want to do is you want to propose a lower number, such as, for example, 10%, and you want to do it before they propose the 25. And this works for two distinct reasons. The first is a phenomenon called anchoring. Anchoring means the following. When you suggest something and it's the first thing to be suggested, then everything else that comes after is based on that initial impression. For example, that's why discounts work. If you're buying something that costs $500 for $500, then you have a base price. That's the anchor. However, if you're buying something that's $2,000 and it's at 1/4 of the price, at $500, it seems a lot less expensive because the initial anchor is high and everything else is in relation to that. So what you want to do is you want to leverage this yourself. Because think about it, in our example, if the board is the one to suggest the punishment, for example, 25% of your bonus lost, that's the initial value, 25%. So whether it's lower or higher in a negotiation, it's all based on the 25%. However, if you're the one to suggest the 10%, then those 10% are going to be the anchor. For example, after you suggest 10%, if they suggest 25, it's going to seem a lot higher by comparison. So when you throw out the initial value, you make it seem like other values that are different from that one seem like a lot of a push, or that they're not very reasonable because they're so far apart. Or to say this in other words, the person who throws out the initial value controls the whole frame. That's the first reason. The second reason why you should preempt this is because you create an atmosphere, a culture of diligence and of self-punishment. It's almost like you're saying, I'm not going to wait for you to punish me, I'm going to punish myself because I realize what I've done was wrong and I have the self-discipline to punish myself. So preempting the punishment works very well. Before the board suggests a heavy punishment, you yourself suggest a light one. And in many cases, that's going to be the one that sticks. Second technique is to focus on remediation versus punishment. That is, instead of looking to the past, look to the future. And you may think, hold on, you just told me to focus on the punishment, and now you're telling me to not focus on the punishment and to focus on the future, but both are compatible. What you want to do is, you want to preempt the situation and suggest the light punishment yourself. And then the message is, hey, just inflict the light punishment on me and let's just move on. Because what's important for the company is to recover at this moment. Whether you caused a big loss of talent, lower sales, a regulatory problem, whatever it is, that's not the focus, right? Punishment can only get you so far. If you really want the company to thrive, then you gotta focus on what comes next. And this is beautiful because it creates kind of a snapback effect. It's almost like you're saying, hey, before anybody speaks, I want to punish myself for what I did that was wrong, or for what somebody else did that was still my responsibility as an executive. However, I don't want to dwell on it. So I would suggest that we inflict this punishment on me immediately and then we move forward, because what matters is the future of the company. You can even tie this to actual financial losses and financial gains. Something like, hey, if you cut my bonus by 25% instead of 10, I'm not going to be very motivated, I'm not going to do a very good job. I think that it's a lot more constructive to get me to focus on what the company should be in the future. So what I would suggest is this light punishment just to show me that this wasn't right, but I want to focus on what comes next. So that's the second key. Get the board to focus on the future and not on the past, because cutting someone's bonus or suspending them or whatever the adverse action is not going to help the company. It's just revenge. But revenge gets you nowhere. The only thing that gets you somewhere is to focus on the future. In other words, get the board to think about rehabilitation and not about revenge. The third point is paradoxical, but you want to tie the punishment to future performance. It's almost the perfect segue to what we mentioned before. You want to say that this light punishment is perfect because it's going to motivate you to work harder and to make up for the problem. Think about that quote where the employee makes the $600,000 mistake, and then they ask the CEO, "Are you going to fire this employee?" And then he says, "Why would I ever fire this person? I just spent $600,000 educating them." It's the same exact thing here. You can get the board to see this problem not as a cost, but as an investment in you, and saying, "Hey, because I screwed up, I want to take this punishment and I want to do something better." However, if you sanction me a lot, if you cut off all my bonus or you reduce my salary or whatever it is, I'm not going to be able to get you better results. So what I would suggest is just a kind of symbolic punishment to show me that I was wrong, but I want to give you future performance. And if the punishment is small, then it's tied to that future performance. However, if you give me a big punishment, then I'm not going to be able to drive these results for you. That's the message here. You want to tie a light punishment to future performance. Or in other words, because I made a mistake, I'm that much more equipped to help you in the future. So these are 3 key techniques to persuade a board that is blaming you for something. First, preempt the problem. Don't wait until their judgment. You suggest what should be done towards you. Then focus on the future and not on the past. Again, rehabilitation, not revenge. Focusing on punishment will only get the company so far. And then finally, actually tie the punishment, the light punishment, to results in the future. It's saying something like, because you're not hurting me a lot, then I'm a lot more motivated and I can deliver a lot more results. These are the 3 main keys. Now here's the thing. These are very complex situations and I'm simplifying to an extent. We don't know whether this was your problem or not, whether you had responsibility in it or not, whether someone in the board is actually aggressive or they dislike you or not. So I'm just saying, in general terms, these 3 elements work a lot in this type of situation. Don't forget to check the channel for more negotiation and communication techniques, both in executive contexts and other situations. And if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.